Hello, I'm Bob Schieffer, and welcome to the CBS Evening News online edition. Just ahead, a tough case for the new Chief Justice. The Supreme Court hears arguments on a state law that would permit assisted suicide. Also, we'll have the inside story of a 4-year FBI investigation into the anthrax killer. And predicting Alzheimer's, a promising new method may help identify those at risk. It's all starting now on the CBS Evening News online edition. Well, the new Chief Justice John Roberts heard arguments today in his first major case since coming to the Supreme Court, and as another Justice, Anthony Kennedy, put it, it is a tough one. Whether terminally ill patients have the right to ask a doctor for help to end their lives. Roberts was aggressive as he questioned lawyers for both sides, but all sides agreed. Neither he nor the other justices on the court indicated how they'll eventually rule. We begin with Wyatt Andrews at the court.
In a case literally about life and death, Oregon is defending its law allowing assisted suicide, a law that lets terminally ill patients like Jack Newbold ask a doctor for a lethal dose of barbiturates.
It's about having control.
Jack, who has bone cancer spread throughout his body, gets to decide when or if he takes the drugs.
And I feel that I should have the absolute right to decide whether I want to, die in pain and agony and rotting away in a hospital, or whether I should be able to gather my loved ones around me and go out my way.
That's your right.
That's my right.
The Bush administration challenges that right, asserting that federal control over drugs trumps state control over medicine. The administration would block the law by prosecuting the doctors who prescribe the drugs. That drew fire from Justice O'Connor. Medicine is regulated by the states. No, she asked. Paul Clement, the Solicitor General, said, right. And nothing in the statute, she went on, gives the Attorney General authority to practice medicine. Clement responded yes, but the federal government has regulated drugs, controlled substances, for 90 years. When Oregon's Assistant Attorney General appeared, the new Chief Justice, John Roberts, zeroed in, demanding to know if the state was claiming the right to legalize anything. What if you have one state that allowed morphine for recreational purposes, the Chief Justice asked. Robert Atkinson, on the receiving end of that question, conceded the Chief Justice had a point.
I've been pinned down before by people who are much less polite about it than Chief Justice Roberts was.
The case is also a showdown between religious groups who argue that assisted suicide isn't proper medicine, and patients who think that stopping assisted suicide isn't the role of government.
Is this the federal government's business?
Simply no. It's an intervention in individual human rights.
This was the first high-profile case for the new Chief Justice John Roberts, and just like his predecessor William Rehnquist, he was active and he was strict. When Roberts said a lawyer's time was up, that lawyer stopped in mid-sentence and sat down. Bob?
So Wyatt, let me ask you this question. We know that Justice O'Connor is retiring. What happens if the Senate confirms Harriet Miers, who the president has nominated to replace her, before the court finally decides this case?
Bob, there's a procedure for this. This kind of thing has happened before. And what's happened before, the 8 justices who heard the case, presuming O'Connor's absence, will vote. If there's a majority, 5-3 or 8-0, then the case is decided with just those 8 justices. If it's 4-4, though, that's the tricky part. They'll ask all the lawyers to come back and re-argue the case, this time in front of the new court with the new 9th justice.
All right. Thank you very much, Wyatt. Well, it was just weeks after 9/11 that there came a series of anthrax attacks by mail, including one here at CBS News. It was 4 years ago today that the first victim of the attacks died, a photo editor at the Sun newspaper in Boca Raton, Florida. And still, there have been no arrests. Jim Stewart has an update on the investigation in tonight's Inside Story.
It was the simplicity of it all that was so scary. Someone drops a letter in the mail, it disappears into the system, and there mingles with millions of other letters to spread its deadly spores. Anyone could get it, from well-known newsmen and politicians to elderly retirees. Anthrax didn't discriminate, and as we soon learned, the same person was behind it all.
The strains are indistinguishable.
4 years have passed since the anthrax attacks. 5 people died, 22 were contaminated. But despite what it calls the biggest investigation of all time, the FBI has no solution and admits it could happen again.
Should we be concerned about anthrax attacks in the future? Yes, we should.
It's become a frustrating global quest for the Bureau. Agents have fanned out all over Asia and Africa in recent months. In the valleys of Afghanistan, they heard someone had hidden the anthrax they sought. It wasn't there. Earlier, they drained a pond closer to home. Nothing. After 53,000 tips and 5,000 subpoenas, zero. Randall Murch, a former FBI lab manager, sympathizes.
We have a situation where there's no smoking gun per se. There's no direct link between the person and the event and the material used.
So, increasingly, the Bureau likens this case to another one that perplexed them. It took them 17 years to finally flush a disheveled Ted Kaczynski out of the mountains and expose him as the Unabomber, they remind us. But what about this case? The answer is always the same.
To the best of my knowledge, no suspects, no significant leads.
That's not real reassuring.
No, it's not.
And privately, FBI officials concede the chances for an arrest are getting slimmer by the day. Jim Stewart, CBS News, Washington.
It is preliminary to be sure, but there is what looks like some very good news on Alzheimer's disease. And our medical correspondent, Elizabeth Callahan, is here with that. Elizabeth?
Well, Bob, one of the biggest challenges with Alzheimer's disease is figuring out who is at risk. This could be a step in the right direction.
Sarah Martinez is hoping to get a glimpse of the future. She's been forgetting things lately, and both of her parents had Alzheimer's disease. So she's participating in a study to see if Alzheimer's can be predicted years before it strikes.
I would like to have the control to know that something is going to happen and that I have to get my affairs ready.
Using EEG technology that measures electrical activity in the brain, researchers have discovered that they can pinpoint the earliest warning signs.
We see slow activity here.
Patterns of brain waves that consistently show up in people who go on to have dementia and Alzheimer's.
It's like the smoke alarm. You see the smoke before the fire, and if you detect it, possibly that's a time when you can stop it.
The study followed 44 people over 7 years, basically healthy people like Sarah who were having concerns about memory loss. The EEGs accurately predicted who went on to get symptoms of Alzheimer's in 95% of the cases.
So we were quite pleased with that. That means that 5 times out of 100 we may miss an individual, but in 95 out of 100 we will identify them correctly. But this was 44 people.
Alzheimer's Association President Dr. William Thies is concerned the findings are too preliminary.
We have a fair amount of work to do before it would become a routine clinical test.
He believes blood tests and imaging techniques might be better ways to make an early diagnosis. Those methods are being developed too. Not a moment too soon for Sarah Martinez, who wants to know what's in store.
I mean, we prepare ourselves for everything else in our lives, but this comes on and you're not aware.
So far, Sarah's test shows normal age-related memory loss, but the prospect of developing Alzheimer's disease remains one of her leading health concerns, Bob.
Well, since we really don't know what causes this has got to be very good news, as preliminary as it is.
Sure, because the consensus is the earlier we can detect it, the better we can treat it. There are a handful of good drugs out there, and they seem to work best when they're delivered early.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Elizabeth. More stories are just a click away, but don't forget to join me on television for the on-air edition of the CBS Evening News. On Thursday's broadcast, Preventing Cervical Cancer. We'll have the test results of a groundbreaking new treatment. For CBSNews.com, I'm Bob Schieffer.